Serious, police officers of Reddit, have you ever witnessed or had to take part in an arrest that you knew was wrong? If so, what happened? This arrest wasn't wrong in an illegal way. It was just wrong in a way that made me feel bad for the arrested person. I responded to a warrant service called in by an anonymous caller at a restaurant. I found my suspect sitting alone at a table. Confirmed his ID and the miscellaneous traffic warrants. Once I got him cuffed and into the car, he told me his story. He was going through a divorce. His estranged wife called him and told him she wanted to try and make it work. She asked for a date at the restaurant. Shortly after he showed up, she went to the bathroom. He thought she was gone for a long time, and he knew he had been tricked when I walked through the door. If I wasn't a rookie at the time, I'd probably left him in the parking lot and told him to call the municipal court on Monday. Lad I know has a non-molestation order his ex got against him. She called him the other week and told him if he wanted to see his kids, meet her at the train station. He gets there and the police are waiting for him. Like, what the frick is wrong with people? I refused to make an arrest that I felt was wrong, and disobeyed an order from my supervisor, resulting in an internal affairs investigation which was eventually dismissed. I was cruising the parking lot of a popular bar restaurant after hours and I see a lone pickup truck parked with the windows down. I run the tag and everything comes back clean. I tell dispatch where I'm at and I approach the vehicle. In the backseat, I see a guy asleep. I wake him up and we start talking. He tells me that he was at a birthday party, drank too much, and decided to sleep it off in his car. The guy seems okay, so my plan was to run his license, make sure he wasn't wanted or anything, and then let him get back to sleep. My supervisor had heard me call out and decided to join me on the stop. For whatever reason, he decided to completely frick this guy. He told me to run him through field sobriety exercises, which he failed. Then he told me to make the arrest for DUI. Even though he was asleep and his keys were in his pocket, he was still legally in control of the vehicle. I was astounded that he would make an issue out of this, and I tried explaining that this guy, who hadn't had so much as a ticket in his past, was doing the right thing by not driving, and that if we locked him up, the next time he drank, he wouldn't bother sleeping it off. He wasn't hearing any of it and ordered me to make the arrest. I flat out told him that I wasn't making it and that he'd either have to do it himself or call another officer. He called another officer, a rookie still on field training, who basically couldn't refuse. I apologized to the guy, left the scene, and called my union rep. I arrested a guy once out of the following scenario. Drunk driver with his GF as passenger driving down the freeway get into verbal altercation. Driver pulls over, gets out and yanks GF out of car. Starts to beat her pretty severely on the side of freeway. Man driving behind them sees the beating, pulls over behind the fight, gets out and beats the heck out of the drunk abuser. WTH, a pair of brass knuckles. I arrested the drunk driver for DUI and domestic violence etc., but had to arrest the man who intervened for assault with a deadly weapon and possession of an illegal weapon. Brass knuckles. I felt bad but had to, because you can't pick and choose what to take action on in a situation like that. Good news was that I dropped all charges on the brass knuckle man due to the circumstances and the fact that he assaulted the man in an effort to help the poor girlfriend. The brass knuckles were what made me have to arrest him in the first place, but I dropped the charge as well. I was glad it ended that way. Ex-police officer, 7 years, NSW, Australia. Nothing illegal, that doesn't really happen. I had to arrest people when I probably would have behaved the same as them. Example, called to residence, one man beating the crap out of another. Turns out that the aggressor came home to find his 34-year-old brother having intercourse with his 14-year-old daughter. I probably would have done the same. It's not illegal as I have never been a part of an illegal arrest. Got information about a guy in town with a gross misdemeanor warrant. GM is a step down from felony, leading to anywhere up to a year in jail. I'd elaborate more on what the warrant was for, but due to privacy and it being an ongoing case, I can't. So I go to the guy's house and knock in his door. I figure he's not home anyway since most of the time these guys aren't home. Lo and behold, he answers. I tell him he has a warrant, tell him what it's for, and he doesn't believe me. Now believe it or not, people lie to cops all the time. So in my head I'm thinking yeah save it. I keep telling him that he needs to get dressed. He's going to jail. After talking with him for about 45 minutes, he wasn't being combative or resistant, just confused. He agrees. My sergeant got a screenshot of the electronic warrant we had on our computers, showed him that it was a $500 bond and he could get out within an hour or two since he had the money, and be done with it. Well, he cooperates. We get up to jail and I start reading through the case to see if he was telling the truth about it. He claimed he never got a court date, never received anything in the mail, nothing. Again, when he first told me I figured he was lying. I check through the case and find something from the county attorney. It was the formal criminal complaint. I thought to myself, perfect. That will have his court date on there, show that he was served, and this guy can shut up. I look through, find out the court date was intentionally left blank, and it wasn't served. Then I find out from jail staff that the county attorney put out the paperwork with no court date on purpose. Basically, he is then mailed paperwork saying come to jail to be booked for this charge, despite the fact that the official proceedings and court hasn't begun, and then we will give you your court date. Turns out that the paperwork they mailed to him was returned, never delivered. As a result, the warrant went out for his arrest. It kinda rubbed me the wrong way. Seemed a lot like a guilty until proven innocent type deal. Again, I did everything by the book. Everything was legal, just kinda odd. I've had to detain people when I've agreed with their reasons for acting out, but I knew it was for their own safety. I worked in a prison and the threat of violence and personal injury could get quite high if a client went against what the others were doing. So even if the guy was morally right, we'd remove him for his own safety. It didn't happen often, but when it did I felt bad for the guy. Usually, being able to talk a person out of a situation is a much more valuable and utilized skill than arresting someone where I worked. Well, utilized by the good officers anyway. Wrong as in illegal? I've never witnessed an illegal arrest. Wrong from a moral standpoint happens rarely. I have only had one arrest that has bothered me. I was dispatched to an accident on the interstate. It was bad enough that the car had to be towed, but nobody was injured. When we tow a car, it has to be a wrecker contracted with the city that picks it up. We can't wait around 4 hours with lanes on the interstate closed for the tow truck you want. So our tow truck gets there and this guy starts arguing. His female passenger who was drunk tries to prevent the tow truck from leaving by blocking the driver from getting in the truck. We move her and tell her to stop. The driver gets in and starts driving away. The drunk girl runs in front of the truck to prevent it from leaving. This peed off my sergeant, and he told me to arrest her. I had a choice to arrest her for public intox or interference with police duties. I decided to go with the PI charge because it is a lesser charge and I didn't feel this girl needed to go to jail for this stupid crap. PI arrests go to a separate detention center and are released when they sober up. They do not go to the county lockup. So the whole way there she is crying saying how she is working at a law firm and this will get her fired. We get there and the detention center they won't accept her because she was in a car accident. I guess this was a new policy to minimize liability. I can't let her go and can't take her for PI because the county doesn't accept PI arrests. So my only option is to charge her with interference with police duties, which is a more serious charge. So I had to take her for that. Not sure what happened to her. I hope she didn't lose her job. I didn't mind arresting her for PI, but I don't think she deserved the other charge even though she was guilty of it. I have a couple arrests I had to make, but didn't want to. I once had to arrest a mom because a good-for-nothing 21-year-old son was being a lazy piece of trash and didn't want to go to school. The son was living at home and commuting to the community college, which was also paid for by his parents. After being fed up with her son skipping numerous days of class, his mom told him he was going to school whether he liked it or not. She picked up his backpack and threw it at him in an effort to get him to put it on and go to school. The son made no attempt to catch or dodge it and just let it smack him right in the face. He then proceeded to call the police to report a domestic assault. Since he was over 18 and they were cohabitating, it qualified as a domestic, and Utah law has a shell arrest on any domestic with probable cause. The second was a father and his 13-year-old son. They got in a verbal argument about something, can't remember now, but long story short, 13-year-old decides to take on his old man and takes a swing. Dad dodges the blow and tackles his son and they end up crashing into a couch. The son starts flailing and the dad pops the son 3 times in the face. The son had a bloody nose when we arrived. I ended up citing the kid for assault and the dad with child abuse. I didn't want to cite the dad, but my superior said since there were 3 punches he wanted him cited. so I was ordered to cite him. Apparently if there had only been one punch he would have been fine with me not citing. Anyway, both of these charges against these people were dropped by the judge, so it didn't end up being too bad. Ex-cop here. Wasn't an arrest per se, but it still involves handcuffs and the back of a police car. I was still on field training, so I had my field training officer riding with me. Emergency call goes out. A guy claims he dropped his kids off with his ex-wife and they had an argument. He says he left and the wife called him a bit later and told him she locked herself and her kids in the bathroom and was going to hurt herself and her kids. Holy freaking crap. I'm racing down the road, lights and sirens. Heart pounding out of my chest. My FTO keeps telling me, when we get there, try the door. If it's locked, don't knock. Kick it in. Lives are at stake, right? We get there and ex-husband pulls in behind us. I try the door and it's locked. I glance at my FTO who nods and I proceed to kick the door to this house in. It wasn't a normal metal exterior door. It was actually a flimsy wooden door, so it flew open really easily. Immediately I'm greeted by a woman on the stairs. It was a split foyer house. Screaming what the frick, she's holding a baby in one arm and holding her toddler child's hand with the other. Everyone is very okay and rightfully frightened by the crazy police officers that just smashed through their front door. We separate everyone and it's pretty clear that the ex-husband is just a complete bag of turds and is making the whole thing up to stick it to his ex. But he sticks to his story. I'm no psychologist, but this lady never had any intention of harming her children. We had to take her away for an emergency evaluation anyway. My lieutenant was more worried that if something did happen and we didn't take her, it would fall back on us, which is a legitimate concern, but then raises the question, what's to stop people from just making crap up and saying someone told them they were going to kill themselves to get them taken away by the cops? A couple of other veteran officers ended up showing up as well and we were all just peed off. We all knew what was going on and we couldn't do crap about it. We take this poor lady out of sight from her kids before handcuffing her and putting her in the car. I felt like the biggest piece of crap putting those cuffs on her. My FTO and I basically just non-stop apologized to her on the way to the hospital. It was such freaking BS. Heck, his kids are probably petrified of cops now because of that whole thing. I hope karma comes down hard on her ex-husband if it hasn't already. You've been spotted by the study dog. Gain smartness and wisdom if you like this video in the next 8 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.